So next, we're going to welcome three incredible panelists. Inside the lines, I told you, he teed this up for me. I didn't even have to read this. Inside the lines, the Travel Sports Playbook. I want to welcome Shooter Hunt from PBR, Dave Smith from NASA Top Hat, and Dean Keener from LakePoint to the stage. Dave and C2, and Dean, you'll be next time. Come on, Dean. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Need to follow directions better, sorry.
No, it's okay. Great to see all of you here. Shooter, I'm going to start with you because, is your mic okay?
Testing.
Okay, we're good. You said you had a tournament here all weekend. Baseball is obviously one of the biggest points of emphasis here at LakePoint. You have so much going on. Talk about how young players are preparing throughout the year now, and then when it comes to tools and analytics with you guys specifically, what you're looking for.
And yeah, these guys will definitely attest to the technology and the just how far things have come with that. And Mark was talking about what LakePoint's invested in, just the media aspect of it, the video that we were able to provide with PlaySite, shooting that out to all over the country. This is the mecca of youth baseball. Everywhere across the country, if you come to LakePoint, everybody knows what that is. It's a town. LakePoint is its own place. But throughout the year, kids are getting ready. They're playing multiple sports most of the time, but they find a way on the weekend. We had kids here who played Friday Night Lights, football. They come over for 2 games on Saturday, baseball. And they just don't stop. The parents are craving it. The industry continues to grow. And I think it's just going to keep doing that.
I'm going to ask you a really quick follow-up before I get to these guys, because you're talking so much about how you guys are getting them prepared. I know that so much of it has to do with social media, because I see PBR all over everything. Is that a big point of emphasis for you guys?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've always had to adjust to. You can't rest on things that are going well. Social media has become such a huge aspect of the youth life and culture, where they're no longer watching cable. Cable's gone away. YouTube TV's in. TikTok's there. Instagram. That's where they're getting their information. If we're not there in that space, then we'll be left behind as well.
Dave, I saw you smiling. You're a big TikToker, right? I knew it.
I actually am not a big TikToker.
Oh, man,
I'm officially
I thought you were
on TikTok. No. My kids argue with me. Twitter, a little Instagram to follow stuff. So I have people that take care of all the social media for us, because I am not that guy.
Not the TikToker. Like he said, it's something that we've all had to adjust to, right? And I
Correct.
think especially for youth sports, it's huge. Social media is huge. But Dave, as far as NASA Top Hat is concerned, it is one of the most successful boys and girls soccer clubs in the entire country. How have you guys been able to generate that success?
Well, it's interesting. So in the world of soccer, there are basically 2 ways to go about it. You either build your own program and try to develop, or you try to see how many coaches you can try to get from other places to pull players with you. So we put a tremendous amount of energy, probably about 15 years ago, into the 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old kids. And so we've grown that from there. So we spend, our most talented coaches don't coach our high-level teams. We have great coaches that go to the national championships and do that. But our best coaches are the ones that we put in with our 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids.
How did that come to be?
Excuse me?
How did that come to be?
Just from going overseas, watching other successful programs. Obviously, still kind of a new sport in this country. So we went over to South America. We go to Europe, try to take the best practices from the best clubs in the world, and then make adjustments so it fits better in the youth soccer market in Atlanta.
And Dean, who's sitting right to my left, RYZE Hoops has grown year after year. We've seen the success that it has had. How have you been able to have the success with RYZE Hoops, and where do you anticipate it going?
Well, youth basketball is a little different maybe than some other sports. It's a little more fragmented, if you will.
Sure.
You know, there are the circuits, the 3 shoe companies, Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, and they really go after some of the premier players. We're fortunate to have those tournaments and many of the finals here at the Champions Center. But we decided a couple years ago when Dan McDonald came in as director of RYZE Hoops, hey, well, let's build it and do our own way so that we can kind of just hold the narrative, if you will, and try to do things to a little higher standard. It's difficult, quite honestly, because incentives can sometimes drive behaviors. And in youth basketball, there's so much money involved, whether it's at the high school, certainly at the collegiate level. But all that said, RYZE has grown year over year to where in 2022, they will have 12 events, 11 of them here, one off site with kind of an eye on continuing to grow regionally. But I think, it's been a thoughtful, methodical kind of crawl, walk, run process to where RYZE now is recognized as at least a regional player in youth basketball. And the hope is that very soon it will be a national player. I also got to give a tip of the hat to Spalding, who has come on as a partner. And they have helped validate what RYZE is all about, being a part of that.
We'll go back to all of that in just a minute because you brought up so many good points, especially when it comes to youth basketball. There's so much competition out there right now, especially when it comes to financial gain. So we'll talk about that in a second. I want to circle back to Shooter because you have some of the top draft picks potentially in the country that are associated with PBR. How do those relationships work with these kids and why is that so important?
Well, I think even in this year especially, we've seen the guys that are in the draft class, the high school level, the social media aspect of that they drive so much where we have tournaments going on here and 8, 9, 10-year-olds are coming over to see these seniors in high school because they've seen them on those social media platforms, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, where they've become marketable in themselves to where, hey, we're providing this, let's really continue to highlight what these kids can do. And from my aspect, making it fun and less pressure, more, hey, enjoy the pleasure of being this top guy. This is a great experience. But the biggest thing has been that social media avenue and those kids coming in who have a chance to be first round picks, 7-figure signing bonuses. And I mean, shoot, at this age, they're so good that they might be in the major leagues in the next few years.
What's the feedback that you get from, just to hang with you for a second, what's the feedback that you get from scouts and from people looking at these kids, especially as you're talking about these videos that are coming up with PBR?
I think they love it, where, especially here, where there's 8 fields, you can see everything in one spot. It's kind of a one-stop shop for the scouting community, whether it's college coaches or professional scouts. Hey, I can see 4 different fields on this side, 4 over there. If I'm not in attendance, I can stream it from wherever I'm at, which then the kids love because there's pro scouts watching me or there's college scouts that are here. And the parents love it because they see the hats and the logos that all these guys are wearing too.
I mean, clearly it is a national brand at this point. Everybody that I talk to knows what PBR is, and it goes back to the social media and branding stuff. So I think it's grown tremendously. It's incredible to where it's at. Dave, what exactly is NASA Top Hat doing to consistently be at the top in the country when it comes to soccer?
The people that we have in our organizations, the staff that we have that work at all levels, the people that work on our second teams, for example, their job is to push as many players up, and it goes through the 3rd, through the 4th, through the 5th level. So that consistency, we're not a club full of a bunch of teams that operate separately. The coaching staffs have weekly meetings and conversations about the kids that are developing quicker and need a chance with the team. And then we take some kids that are coming back from injuries or struggling a little bit, and sometimes we'll move them down just to get them in an environment where they can get some confidence back.
So how do you continue to grow as NASA Top Hat, and why is it a benefit to be a part of this club?
It's the philosophy that we go about developing players. We put a premium on that. So even at tryouts, we have hundreds and hundreds of kids come to tryouts. For someone to knock a kid out of our club that has been there for 3 or 4 years developing, they've got to be head and shoulders above that. So, and we've been pretty consistent about that, and we have a clear track record of 2nd and 3rd level kids that get chances at the top level. This weekend was a great example. There was the top boys program in the country is called the ECNL. They had a big showcase here in Atlanta. I think our club went 16-1, and we probably had more than 24 kids off our 2nd and 3rd teams that were playing with our first teams in the event.
Wow, that's
make a point real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dave brings up a really good point. Regardless of your endeavor, it's about people, right? And it's about the right culture. And that's what NASA Top Hat has done for over 25 years or so. Same with PBR. They've got good people from the top down. And I can speak from experience that with NASA Top Hat, it is about youth development. And that's the kind of organization that we, LakePoint, want to align ourselves with, and we do. And whether it is from a PBR, a NASA Top Hat, SV Sports, I mean, across the board, you combine good people, great companies, organizations that really do things the right way and are in it for the kids and their holistic development, and you combine that with state-of-the-art venues, and this is what you have. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. And clearly this is a state-of-the-art venue, of course, for all three of you. And you've said a lot of really interesting points so far, Dean, and especially when it comes to youth basketball, which is ever evolving, and the landscape is changing, I think, dramatically, because now there's financial gain, like you talked about, and you've got Nike and Under Armour and OTE coming to Atlanta. Now it's really competitive to get elite teams to play basketball. How do you manage that? How do you compete with that?
Well, I mean, strategically, I could probably talk about this for 20, 30 minutes, but, there's live periods where college coaches can attend, and maybe in basketball it's more defined than other sports. And so, strategically, you look at the calendar 9, 12 months out and say, okay, what weekends can we do something really at a high level? And that's what RYZE has tried to do, to capture those teams, not only within the state of Atlanta, but regionally and even nationally. But it's interesting, we talk about, we are a national brand and really one of the best youth sports parks, venues, complexes in America. But just think about the athletes here in Georgia, right? I mean, the Trayvon Walker was the #1 pick in the 2022 NFL draft, and Jabari Smith dropped to #3 in the NBA draft. He's from Sandy Creek High School in Auburn. And Drew Jones from here in Greater Atlanta was the 2nd pick in the MLB draft, all in 2022 professional drafts. I'm sure there's others in soccer and across the board. So the point being is we are in such a fertile state and area where, yes, we are national in scope, but if you just keep the Georgia kids, both male and female here, boy, you're really going to have some great tournaments.
I'm glad that you brought that up. I hyped up Georgia sports so much, but one of the things that I forgot to mention, which I'm glad that you just said, is just how much elite talent there is across the board of all sports. It's so important. I was at Trayvon's draft party, by the way. Great kid. Good to see him doing great things in Jacksonville. Shooter, I'm going to
He played here, by the way. I mean, yes. all three of those have been here. Drew Jones in baseball, and then Trayvon, who was, by the way, a very good basketball player, yes. Along with Jabari. So sorry to interrupt.
I would be scared to play basketball against Trayvon Walker. That would not be very fun. Shooter, I want to circle back to you. We talked about what PBR has been doing, but what is next for PBR? What's on the horizon?
I think these tournaments that you're seeing are just going to get even more high profile. We were just talking before about what do you look at? We're looking at other sports. What do people want to see? Basketball's so high profile. Soccer's the biggest sport in the world. What are they doing right? What do people want out of that? And we talked about the social media aspect of it, but just raising the profile of the sport and making it less niche, continuing to grow the game where the guys were talking about, Mark, before we got on, but baseball's not dying. And every time I come here, I just see growth. And more people are playing. Now, it's easy to say because Georgia sports are so good and the kids still play 3 sports, and basketball and football and soccer and baseball. But when I travel the country, that's what I'm saying. Even to the casual sports fan, baseball's not dying. They're looking to grow. Major League Baseball continues to look to grow. And worldwide, it really is a sport that I think still is on the rise.
When did you really see a time where baseball is growing? Because you keep saying you see the growth. Is there a specific point in time where you saw it?
Well, just being here, where there's a team, they're still playing right now over there. But
you're ready to get over there. I know you are.
right over there. But there's kids from California who flew all the way to LakePoint. They're going to play here, and they're going to stay through the week and continue to play. And I think just sports in general has become such a big business, even at a younger age, that I think it's only going to get bigger from that aspect beyond just high school, moving down the lower levels that soccer and basketball are already very much a part of.
We talk about everything on a global scale. We've been talking about that all morning. Soccer, certainly. You and I had a chance to talk beforehand about the World Cup coming here to Atlanta, which is so great. But the landscape of soccer right now is incredibly interesting because everybody knows about the MLS and the NWSL. How does the ECNL, which you had mentioned earlier, MLS, and the ODE Olympic Development Program fit into all of that right now?
Well, so the MLS academies have a different model, and this is what we try to tell everybody. And we have a lot of players that go to the Atlanta United Academy. The Atlanta United Academy is looking for professional soccer players. End of story. One thing that makes us strong is that we understand that 0.001% of our kids are going to make a living playing soccer. So we put a lot of energy into the life lessons, the discipline, all the things that we can do to help the kids grow, because we look at a kid's entire youth journey at our club from 4 or 5 years old all the way to 19. And that's the focus for us, is that. So,
since we did talk about the World Cup a little bit, what kind of impact can that have on youth soccer coming here to Atlanta?
Oh, it'll have a big kick to every soccer organization's registration numbers. It does every year. Even though it's in Qatar, I guess in the winter this year, right? We'll get a big kick at registration again. And then definitely when it's here, when Canada, Mexico, and US host it, our numbers will be pushed up. So, but that's like my club's biggest problem is field space. That's why we have this relationship with LakePoint. But if you look where my club is based and we create a heat map of where our members live, finding the right amount of fields in that area is our biggest challenge, probably.
Did you want to say something? You're okay. Just one more follow-up about the World Cup, because when I was at that announcement, I think a lot of people said that truly the casual soccer fan has no idea the kind of impact that it's going to have from the top down. And when we're talking about youth sports, that can certainly have a massive impact, I would think. Try to tell everyone, because I know if you're not a soccer fan, you know the World Cup, but you don't really know the magnitude of what it can do to a city.
Yeah, so how I try to describe it to people, you know, I'll go compare it to the Auburn-Alabama football game. So take that times 100, and people from all over the world are coming here, and almost every country has a fan base that's like UGA or Alabama or Auburn. And they're all going to come to this country, and it will take over the country, and it will take over Canada and Mexico for that 6-week window for sure.
And it'll certainly be a dream for all of these youth soccer players to witness that and to be a part of that here. I think it's going to probably motivate them to play soccer on a national stage
Correct.
as well.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool. I'm so excited for it to come here. Dean, circling back to you, we talked about Nike, Under Armour, OT, all of these things. And you talked about the challenges within that. What are you guys doing to be competitive, given the fact that they're coming in and really making it difficult on youth basketball right now?
Well, look, there's more and more regulations that are coming about through USA Basketball, which are helping the entire ecosystem. I think during the next collective bargaining agreement in the NBA, the NBA Players Association, Adam Silver's made it known that he's going to do away with the one and done, go straight from high school. And I think that will actually help youth basketball, because the reality is there's only a select few, but those one and dones, they've got their eye on the prize from a very young age. So, but specifically, you know, RYZE Hoops and LakePoint are really trying to just tweak things to where the entire programs and kids and parents that are here, they're just having a better experience. But I go back to people. It really sounds pretty silly, but you're at the mercy of somebody's competence. The officials and the scorekeepers can have such an impact on a youth tournament, because it's not it's not anything other than, man, those officials at the RYZE event or at the PBR event were bad. And that can impact, or a NASA Top Hat, official. So you really try to vet and align yourself with good people that are going to have, across the board, from official scorekeepers to, directors of the event. But I'll close by saying, yes, USA Basketball, along with the NCAA and others, are really trying to mandate coaching licensing. Official licensing, not only just background checks, but different ways that can really elevate the game. And so it's going to help everybody, not just RYZE.
I think one of the things we've been talking about throughout this panel with you specifically is the landscape of basketball. You're a former Division I coach. You've seen a lot of things at that level and here in youth sports. What do you feel like the landscape is of youth basketball specifically right now?
Well, it's ever changing, right? And it changes based on, one and done. The OTE, which is at Atlantic Station, Overtime. If you're not familiar, media company Overtime has created this almost academy-like program with, they hope to have 40 elite players. The other thing that's affecting is NIL, name, image, and likeness. And I don't think it's just for basketball, but across the board, a number of other sports. So, RYZE Hoops in particular, LakePoint, really trying to keep an eye on everything that's happening from the professional and collegiate perspectives, because it ultimately affects the grassroots. And I say direct grassroots, club, travel. So many people want to say AAU. That's a singular entity, athletic amateur union that is not as involved in basketball anymore. But you've got to make sure that if you're in the youth sports, you've got to keep an eye on, not just the youth of the grassroots, but again, the professional and collegiate levels, because that filters down.
It's certainly changing, ever changing all of the time, I think, across the board. NIL is something we could probably talk about for the next 2 hours, but we don't have that allotted time. So I'm going to close with each one of you and ask you one final question. Shooter, for you, why is it important for people to be involved with PBR right now?
I think more than anything, and these guys can attest to it, you talked about kids going on to professional contracts and making a living doing that. The big thing is, with PBR, making lifelong fans of our sport. Because to continue a sport that I love, baseball, I love soccer and basketball as well, but the kid from 7U all the way up through 18 has to want to play baseball and then watch it, and then he's going to then in turn give that to his son and daughter. So that with PBR, just continuing to highlight the aspects of baseball that everybody loves, and not just for the singular kid, but for everybody. It's one of the most important things in baseball right now.
And you talked about not everyone can play professional sports, but a lot of people can continue to work in it. And if you grow that love from the time that kids are really little, they can be a part of the game for as long as they want, which is really, really cool. Dave, I'll close with you. NASA Top Hat, we've talked about the success and the growth and all of that, but why, same kind of question, why is it important now more than ever for kids to be a part of your program?
Well, I think it's important, again, we go back to the 99% of the kids that aren't going to get paid playing the sport, that they're in a good environment. And it is our responsibility, because we're going to watch them from 5 years old to 18. We're going to watch them go through a lot of changes. So they need to be in an environment that's going to help them develop regardless of the level they're at. I mean, we have the best disabled sports soccer program in the country. And there's Special Olympics, which is super competitive. And then our program is called Top Soccer, and it's not competitive. It's for that next niche of disabled athletes that need the social emotional connection. They need the exercise. And as much as I like watching us win national championships and do all that, nothing makes me feel better than going out to our park on a Sunday and watching that program take place. So no matter where you fall in the sport of soccer, we're going to provide the best possible people for you in that sport. And if your goal is to get higher, we'll give that development model to you.
I love that. That's super special. And another good point to where there's different levels to it, but everyone is important and everyone makes a difference. I really like that. Last question for you, Dean. We talked about you being a former coach. You've been an analyst. You're clearly passionate about RYZE Hoops. Why?
Well, I'm passionate about youth sports, right? And have had some kids that have traveled through different sports. But there's so many, we talk about sometimes the cons, the negativity. There's so many pros to youth sports, and not just RYZE, but, visibility, and all the things that sports can provide young people, both female and male. It's competition, because competition breeds improvement, and setting goals, reaching goals, breaking through glass ceilings. Just across the board, there's so many things that youth sports teaches young people as they go through. And look, when they're 10, 12 years old, they do have these dreams of playing in the MLS or Major League Baseball, but it ends up level setting. And as Dave has said, 1% may make it to that next level, and that's collegiate, let alone the professional ranks. But that's okay. And so as long as RYZE Hoops, PBR, NASA Top Hat have the right coaches and are teaching people the right values and letting them develop not just their athletic skills, but holistically the other skills from proper nutrition and training, and that's why we align ourselves with the partners that, that care about those things maybe outside the sport themselves. Then I'll remain a lifelong fan.
That's a perfect way to end it. You guys, I appreciate your time so much, and thank you for giving us so much insight inside the lines as to why youth sports is so important. Appreciate you guys. Round of applause for them, please.
Thank you.
On the west side, so I reach for my 40 and I turn it up.